Procrastination is not a time management problem. I want you to understand that. You don't procrastinate because you don't know how to organize your calendar. You procrastinate because of one of two things. You don't have the clarity on what you're supposed to do, or you're afraid of what happens when you do it. Once you understand that, you really understand it. Procrastination becomes something you can deal with because it stops being about discipline and starts being about diagnosis. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to diagnose it and what to do about it. Hi, my name is Denney, author, entrepreneur, and business strategist. I work with men who are building businesses, leading teams, and trying to build lives that reflect what they're capable of. Procrastination is one of the most expensive habits a man can have. I don't mean expensive in a motivational poster sense. I mean in a real compounding opportunity cost sense. Every day you delay is a day someone else is building the thing that you're thinking about. Every week you spend in planning mode is a week of feedback, momentum, and market position that you're leaving on the table. What I've seen working with entrepreneurs is this: the men who procrastinate the most are almost never lazy. They're capable, driven men who are stuck. And when you dig into what's actually keeping them stuck, it's almost never a time management issue. It's clarity or fear, and usually both. The action they're avoiding often takes a fraction of the time they've spent avoiding it. Once you understand which one that you're dealing with, you can move. So let me show you how. Here are 3 things you need to understand to stop procrastinating and start executing. Now, the first thing that you need to do is name the fear. Procrastination is rarely what it looks like. The reason most productivity advice doesn't work is that it treats procrastination as a scheduling problem when it's almost always an emotional one. What does procrastination actually look like? You know what needs to be done. You have the time. You might even have the knowledge, but you open your email instead. You organize your desk. You research things you've already researched. You have one more conversation about the plan instead of executing. Does that sound familiar? Here's what's actually happening. The task you're avoiding carries some kind of emotional weight. It could be fear of failure. If I launch this and it doesn't work, what does that say about me? It could be the fear of success. If this actually takes off, am I ready for what comes next? It could be perfectionism. If I do this and it's not excellent, I'd rather not do it at all. And perfectionism, let me be direct with you, is just fear with better branding. The first step to beating procrastination is to get honest about what specifically you're avoiding and why. Not, I've been busy. Busy is not a reason, it's a costume. What is the actual thing that you're afraid of? Write it down, name it. Because the moment that you name the fear clearly, it loses about 60% of the power that it has over you. It stops being this ambient anxiety and becomes a specific, manageable thing. And once you know what you're actually dealing with, you can ask yourself, is this fear based on something real? Usually it isn't. Usually it's a prediction about a future that hasn't happened, and predictions are not facts. Now, the second point that I want to make is to build the system. Momentum beats motivation and clarity beats both. Once you've dealt with the fear, the second thing that you need is a system that generates momentum, because here's what nobody tells you about execution. The hardest part is starting. Once you're moving, it gets easier. The inertia that was keeping you still starts working in your favor. Your job is just to get moving. The first principle is clarity. Vague tasks don't get done. Work on the business is not a task. Write the first page of a pitch deck is a task. Research competitors is not a task. List 5 competitors and their pricing is a task. The more specific you can make the next action, the more likely you are to do it, because vague creates hesitation. Specific creates motion. The second principle is small starts. Your brain is not wired to take on huge things. It's wired to avoid them. Don't ask it to build the whole website. Ask it to write the homepage headline. Don't ask it to have the whole difficult conversation. Ask it to pick up the phone and dial. Starting small is not weakness, it's physics. You're generating momentum from a standing start. Once you're in motion, once you've written that first paragraph, once you've dialed the number, once you've sent that first email, the next thing becomes dramatically easier. Momentum builds on itself. Your job is to generate the first unit of it. Now, the third principle is to protect your execution time like it's sacred, because it is. Block it in your calendar. Tell people you're unavailable. Close the tab. Silence the phone. Give yourself 1 hour of focused, uninterrupted execution on your most important thing. Before you look at the email, before you take the calls, before anyone else's priorities become yours, 1 hour. Do this 30 days and your life will look different. Execution isn't a heroic act. It's a daily practice. Build the practice and the results will come. Now, my third point, build accountability, the environment that makes executing the default. The last piece is the environment. And I mean that literally and figuratively. Literally, your physical environment is either working for you or against you. If your workspace is where you also watch TV, scroll your phone, and eat, your brain doesn't know whether it's time for work or whether it's time to relax. Create a dedicated space for execution, even if it's just a chair at a table with everything else out of reach. Your brain will start to associate that environment with work mode. But more importantly, your social environment. The men around you either normalize execution or they normalize avoidance. If everyone in your inner circle is talking about what they're going to do and none of them are doing it, that becomes the acceptable standard. Find one person, just one, who you can be accountable to, not to vent to, not to strategize with, to report results with. By Friday, I'll have X, I'll let you know. That simple structure, a commitment, a deadline, a witness will change what you actually execute on. And finally, commit publicly when it's appropriate, not in an announcement for a dopamine way. We've talked about that before in other videos, but sometimes just telling a client you'll have something to them by Thursday creates a deadline that needs to exist. Sometimes telling your team the launch date forces the launch. Commit to others, when used carefully, creates the accountability that self-commitment alone doesn't always hold. So here's where I want you to start. Right now, before you close this video, think of one thing that you've been putting off. The one thing that you know would move the needle most in your business or your life right now. Not a list of 5 things, the one thing. Now make it specific. What is the exact next action? Not the whole project, the next action, and write it down. Then give it a deadline, not this week. Give it a specific day and time. That's it. That's where execution starts, not in a planning session, not in a strategy retreat, in the decision to name the thing and go do it. And please make sure you subscribe for more. Every week, I put out content for men who are serious about building businesses and lives that reflect what they're capable of. And make sure you comment below. Put in the one thing that you're executing on this week. Put it in the comments, make it real. I'll check the comments. I love to read the comments. And remember, learn, lead, and live to your full potential. I'll see you in the next video.